mind.
Right. If you have parents who are educated enough to work with their students,
Very difficult.
excuse me, their kids at home,
Yeah,
on their
correct.
homework,
Correct.
then they excel better.
Correct.
If you have parents who don't,
Discipline, in a
or
way.
don't have the time,
Yeah.
then they fall behind.
Correct. I'm not a good student. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I went on from there back to Montessori.
I've always wanted to go to Montessori. My kids are going to go to Montessori.
So I went back there, and at this time, the issue of growing up in this kind of environment was, and I mean, I grew up in the West End. I grew up in the West End of town, more urban part.
Yeah, that's a nice area of town. The West is nice. For Little Rock, I'm telling you, as I know.
And I remember going with the kids there, and a lot of the kids were behind in a number of subjects like math and reading and science and things like that. And so I was known as one of the smart kids.
Yeah, good.
You know, that I talked very properly.
I got that too. Yeah. What's that word mean? As?
You know, that I knew my timetables before any of the kids on the block.
Right. Right. I can see that. Yeah, you are definitely educated.
All right. But so I noticed that I was, because of my background in education, that I was always made distinct from the others, that I was sometimes made fun of.
Sure. Me too.
Because of, you know, my background.
Because of the background as a whole?
No, I mean, in this particular situation, in this particular neighborhood, you know, kids would make fun of you if you were seen to be too studious or too nerdy.
That's just insecurity. Yeah.
But
on their part.
Yeah. So out of that spawned this attitude from others who were less educated, that I spoke like a white person.
Yeah, that's got to be tough.
I dressed like a white person, and it was basically
dress like a white person.
No,
you just swank.
No,
it's not a white person. You dress well.
But let me finish. What I was going to say was it was basically what I discovered, that a group of individuals, and this is a very common prejudice, that if you talk a certain way, particularly for an African American, you standard English, that's talking white.
Yeah.
But I mean that's not a predominant attitude or belief among African Americans. It's just one of these stereotypes and prejudices that people pick up.
Did you get a lot of that from the black kids as well as the white kids? That
not so much from, really not from white kids. It was generally always from black kids.
Yeah.
So and I didn't really get any of that until I entered the public school system again when I entered the 10th grade.
Wow, you spent a lot of time in private.
Right.
I spent some time, not that amount of time. Wow, good. So, that's why you're so good.
But being in the private school system, you know, I did it like some African Americans have an issue with being the only African American or
you
black.
do stand out.
Well, being the only African American or black inside of a room, or at a social function, or at a party.
Yes.
But I never had that problem. Again, I told you
that's going to work to your advantage.
Yeah, but again, I told you that people form their attitudes about their identity from their parents, from pop culture, and from their friends. So my parents, they came here from a small town in the 50s. So this was before civil rights. This was during the time of Jim Crow in Arkansas. So given the social climate of the way of the attitudes and beliefs of whites then, my parents didn't inculcate a feeling or a sentiment of hate towards other whites.
Good.
You know, my mother and father always said that there are people out there who might be racist or prejudiced.
Yeah.
But there are good people out there, and people are people.
Good. That's true. They're right.
So given the history of our country, I don't go around with this indignant bent, spewing out all this resentment about.
Not much hate.
This is the fault of white people today, or whatever. That the current situation in our society is this. I mean, I don't think that way. I think during the time of going through private school, I was taught to transcend my skin color.
Okay.
Don't use it as an excuse. Don't use it as an excuse to hold myself back. Don't use it as an excuse to be. Don't make my erroneous attitudes and beliefs about my identity allow that to be a crutch. what I didn't like about the attitude to race in this part of the country in the South is namely, it was, I don't know, it's the thought process I felt like very backwards. It was just outdated. Yeah. It was that I understand the history of our country and how the institutions and political phenomena that shaped the way our country turned out, but I was always dissatisfied with living among individuals who thought and believed in a way that was just purely misconceptual. So, wow. but it doesn't help when you have African Americans who portray the stereotypes.
You're right.
It doesn't help that.
You're right.
At all.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I mean, like, since civil rights, there isn't one particular African American community. There are many communities, and people are individualized. So now minorities in this country have the opportunity to become anything they want. They can use the law. Yeah. They can use education. Yeah. And I mean, it's the most propitious time to transcend and raise yourself from where you are today.
I think you're just, you're taking advantage of the blessing of here and now. Now is good, is your point. Yeah.
So I entered public school, and the first year I went to public school that was outside of the main city here.
Now, is this public school 10th grade? First year?
Yeah, it was 10th grade.
10th grade.
And so going there, I didn't fit in with the other African American kids. They grew up with a different set of beliefs and attitudes. Okay. I was always into my work, always into school.
Studious, yeah.
I wasn't into the, drug selling, into gangs, into fighting.
Which was overall cool. That wasn't just black at the time. That was cool.
Right. I wasn't into any of this.
Pop culture cool.
I wasn't, And then after that whole period of growing up in school, then I got out into the world, and I decided to go to college. I saw that education, particularly for a minority, was an integral part for raising my social mobility.
Amen to that. Well said.
So
absolutely.